What is going on, everybody? How you doing? Hope you're having a great Friday, because now the Infinity Equation's on. You're tuned in, and you're about to get turned out. How y'all doing? Happy Friday, Goon Squad. I hope you had this great, beautiful week. I hope you're having a great, beautiful weekend as well. Let's start up because there's a lot of wrestling's going on. We're going to talk about that real quick. A lot of stuff's going on this weekend on Memorial Day weekend. But if you're new here, please hit the subscribe button, hit that like button if you like what you see and you like watching us, and helps us grow, helps more people know about us. And hey, it's just fun. It's just fun to do. It's something to do while you're sitting there drinking your juice in the hood. I mean your grape juice, not your juice or juicy box, whatever. But I can't do the show without my wonderful and colorful friend, Mr. Tim. How you doing?
Dante, Infinity Equation Goon Squad, what goes on? Welcome to another Friday. As I always say, Dante, I might be tired. Might have been a long week. That music hits. Start moving. Start getting excited. Going to talk some toys tonight. We got a special guest with us here tonight. Lots of wrestling this weekend. It's going to be, I bought a lot of toys this week, which I don't regret at all, mind you. You enablers out there. But very excited to be here again, Dante, for tonight's show, as always.
And wait a minute. Making his appearance from the last 3 months, Mr. ActionfiggySkinny.
Hey y'all,
What's going on, sir?
I'm good. I'm good. I just thought I'd pop in, say hi to y'all, say hi to all the IE family out there. I'm just doing my thing. About to go ahead and
you know what he's too busy doing? Wait, where's that? Where does time go?
Oh,
What's in the box?
yeah. Hey, time for y'all to do your what's in the boxes for Hushers. I just wanted to say what's up to you guys real quick. Since you guys joined the StreamYard world, just wanted to say what's up. That I miss y'all, and I'm always here. And there might be some few more pop-ins. Slowly as time gets back. But yeah, just wanted to say what's up to all the guys in the IE family. I love you guys, miss y'all, and I'm here. I'm always here, even though I'm not here. I'm here.
Thank you, sir. Well, we appreciate you. We're glad you're here with us, hanging with us.
Always. But yeah.
Good to see you.
All right. Yes, as always. Couple things before we bring in our guests here. Couple of deaths this week, which is very sad. Tina Turner passed away, and Ray Stevenson passed away. You may know him from Punisher Warzone, but also as Volstagg from the Thor movies. So sad to see them pass away, especially Ray Stevenson at such a young age. I thought it was like 50. They said he was 58.
Yeah, I think it's 50.
Yeah.
Yeah, mid to late 50s. Yep.
So
Crazy.
So sad to be so young and pass away. Even Tina Turner, I didn't know she was 83, but still,
Yeah, I had no idea.
That's still very sad, but that's a damn good run. 83.
Exactly.
And she kicked ass along the way, in multiple ways. So
Got to keep that big wheel turning.
that's right. She was simply the best.
Yes, she was. You know what?
Too soon? No.
No.
Perfect.
I mean, sometimes we just need another hero.
I
Just
don't have any more.
not poking fun at Tina Turner, folks.
I had one.
This guy says I had one.
All right, folks. But before we get to the chat, let's welcome in our guest here, who's waiting in the wings. On the wings of love. Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I'll let him come in, and I'll.
Oh, I like that. Oh, where'd he go? All right, waiting in the wings is Landon Stewart, head of Invincible Toys. How you doing, sir? Welcome.
I'm doing awesome, gentlemen. I appreciate you guys having me on. I brought my juice.
There you go.
So-
See?
Right, came prepared.
Excellent. Thanks for being here, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, anytime.
Thank you for hanging us with us, those outcasts of the world. But that's what we all gather here for figures. We love figures. We love toys.
Absolutely. I feel bad because it's like I see everybody and they have everything on the walls and displayed, and I'm like sitting in the office and everything is just like supplies and paint, and it's a mess over here.
Don't
But
feel bad. This looks like it's configured, but if I turn this camera around and looked around this room, it would look like a whirlwind, like a Tasmanian devil hitting here.
yeah, that's how it looks here. I'm like, it's creative. It's the creative process that's
right.
going on.
We like seeing that behind the scenes stuff. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, hey, absolutely.
Just real quick before we start, what kind of printer is that in the back there? I see a 3D printer. Looks like a resin one.
Yeah, that was my first printer. That's an Elegoo Mars, the original Elegoo Mars. And then right now I'm running off of Elegoo Mars 2 Pro. And after doing the research, and I mean, I'm not like a professional printer or anything, but after doing the research, it seemed like the Elegoo Mars 2 Pro was kind of the best for the price. So that's what I'm running now. And then we just picked up Elegoo Neptune 3 Plus, which is huge.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a big boy. So we're going to be using that. We want to start getting into doing vehicles and play sets. So we needed something big enough to be able to start printing out larger scale things, maybe some prop replicas and stuff for the lines. And we definitely needed something that was going to be able to put out some larger pieces. So
we'll have to talk more about some 3D printing, because I have the Elegoo Saturn 2, and then I have the Saturn S, and then I have the Creality HDR 2, I think it's called. So those are 3 that I run at the current moment. So they're not really. The Saturn 2, I love it. That's a workhorse. It does what it's supposed to do. I love
that's
it.
the larger one, right?
It's a little bit bigger. It's not like the
not
Neptune
the biggest, 3. But
yeah. But yeah, it runs pretty well.
I actually print very well with a pencil. That's about all the printing I could do.
I think it's a lot more. I think it looks a lot more intimidating than it really is, and I think once you get it, I think. Now, granted, I'm fairly, I guess, mechanically savvy, like really tech savvy, but mechanically savvy. So that might help a little bit. But when I pulled the printers out, maybe 15 minutes, and I was up and run printing stuff. It's just that easy of the process. Now, I haven't used the filament printers since they first came out. And of course, that was before we were even running on resin. So that thing would get going, and then every 5 minutes it would get jammed up. You get a clog and you have to rip it apart, and you're like burning yourself. And, you were lucky if you got like a little robot like this big out of it. So they've come, so far since that process that if it's something you're interested in, I definitely think I mean, they're so cheap too. You pay, maybe get something decent. I picked up my Mars 2 Pro off of eBay, and it was just a return. It was a factory, and they just take these returns in, and then they just mark them down ridiculously. So I got it for next to nothing. It came in. It was still packaged. It still had the wrapping on it, the plastic wrapping and everything. And broke it out and just started kicking out all the prototypes. So it's definitely easy, and people are now getting into that. Our sculptor, Esteban, that's what he's doing. He has the line where he makes ready to print action figures. So it's kind of the only way to get them at this point. I'd love to make them, but right now that's the only way to get them. So might have to invest in a printer.
Well, before we get into more of a deep dive of everything, because Esteban is a good friend of the show. If you watch Esteban, my man, hope you're doing well. Tim, let's check on the chat and see how.
Let's say hello, everybody who's here today. Everybody, if you're new here, and you haven't been here before, hit that subscribe, hit that like button, leave a comment down below later on. If you're somebody hanging out in the background watching and you're not chatting, that's fine. You don't have to, but it's encouraged. Participation's great. Interact. Let us know what goes on with your toy collecting this week. So let's say hello to everybody who was in the chat. So ML Series is here. What's going on, man? Robert Diaz in the house. It's time to talk about AOA, Dante.
No, it's not. Nobody likes Age of Apocalypse except for you, Robert. That's about it.
I like Age of
And Tim, you and Tim. That's it. Two people. Doesn't matter. Mm-mm.
Who else we got here? Mobile Recluse is here. Says hello. What goes on? Mark Rose in the house. The birthday man is here. 1-6 shooter Trevor, Mr. Mythic.
Yes, happy birthday.
Happy birthday. I think it was a few days ago, but happy birthday, sir.
Happy belated. There we go.
There it is.
There you go.
Get the belated.
Mythic Legions himself.
That's right. Unboxing art, Mike. What's going on, man? Whoop whoop in the house. Koki87 is here. Happy Friday, Goon Squad, he says. Craig Feinstead's here. Starting trouble as always, Dante. But he's telling us right now, hit that like button. Grab your drink and listen to those dulcet tones. Sorry, again, the eyes are bad. They're bad. Striden's in the house. What's going on, Striden? Paul Morales is here. KJ Smith, what's up, peeps? Unparalleled Universe is here. Says happy Friday to everybody. Payne's
Wait, hold on. Wade graced us with his appearance. Oh man. Oh my goodness. Wade graced us.
Yeah, it's a rare occasion, huh?
Exactly. I didn't think we knew he still exists anymore.
Yeah. Hey, so Striden's on.
Striden's here.
Striden's here. He's one of our team.
Really?
I didn't know that.
He is. Yes.
Striden.
He's part of the Invincible Toys team.
That's very cool.
Say anything, Stride. You held this information with it. You know what, Stride? I thought we were friends.
He's been holding out, Dante. Tonight's the night, though.
He's our secret weapon. We keep him in the reserve. So
that's great. Who else? I think I might have missed Payne's toy samples in the house. What's going on, Payne's? And I think we got to everybody who's here so far.
All right, nice. Just some real quick pointers here. We got let's see. 162 says rest in peace, Aunt Entity. Yes, Entity. I think that's reason. Greg says AFS. He may be AOL, but he likes to come in and roll in advances like Firefly. That was true. Figgy says, "What's up, Invincible Toys?" ML Series says, "Play sets. What are y'all talking about? Play sets? Maybe. Greg says, "Listen to Dante. What is an unofficial episode of Infinity Creators?" Hey, look. If Landon wants to come back for some Infinity Creators, where we talking about some great stuff with some great stuff, hey, who am I to stop it? Infinity Creators can happen anywhere, sir.
I love creating stuff.
There you go. So yes, we'll have to get you back on for Infinity Creators then, because that's the second show, the sister show, this one, where we just do it once a month, talk about creating stuff, no matter if it's 3D printing, dial making, customized action figures, whatever. As long as you're in that creative space, we talk about it.
No, I love that. I mean, I think that's one of the best parts of doing this, right? Is finding those little creative things that get us going.
Exactly, and that's what I love. Like, I know some people are scared to get into 3D printing, and we talked about this before on both shows. There's nothing to be scared of. Like, just dive into it, because when you start 3D printing, you start being able to make stuff that you want, and that you can just find either a file or you can design yourself. Makes everything so much easier. It's like, all right, I don't have to ask anybody to do this. I can just do it myself. Now there are folks who are fine with, other people printing stuff for them not doing it. That's fine.
When I got started, like I said, using resin printers wasn't even really a big thing. It was probably close to $1,000 to get hold of a resin printer. That was when it first started. So I was having to go through the company. You can have them print stuff for you. I forgot the name of them. But at that point, everything that we had sculpted, we were having to pay for them to go and print and then send to us. And it was so costly. And it was just so much better when we were able to get a printer and do it all on our own, so I think that's definitely the way. And I think it's worth getting over that learning curve, just to start being able to print your own stuff without having to be restrained by having somebody else do it for you.
Yeah, and that's a great point because like when you print it out, then you can test it and see like, okay, maybe this joint might not work here, or this piece may not be able to fit here.
So yeah, funny story. So I went through, and of course you have to choose the size and everything that they can print it out in.
Right.
So the first run came back, and I think it cost me like $35 for a head, right? And this thing comes
Wow.
back, and it's like a bobblehead, and I'm like, oh man, gosh, this thing is huge. So I go try it again. Go ahead, send it in. Comes back, it's way too small. I'm like, man. So I think it cost like it ended up being around probably $90 before we got the head back, and it was the right size, and it wasn't even the head we ended up going with. So
So what you're saying is
yeah,
trial and error cost money.
try a lot. Well, yeah, I mean, and when you're paying people to do it, you don't want all the trial and error, right?
Right.
Because $90, you're already over halfway to getting your own printer. So, and of course, those were different, times before things were that cheap. But now it's just go do it, And there's so much help out there. People who are willing to help you, whether it's friends, people on these Facebook groups. And I mean, I could post something on a Facebook group, and probably the longest you'll wait to hear something back is maybe 45 minutes. So it's definitely worth, jumping into and doing it.
Yeah, definitely. It is. It is. I think that's the best thing because uh, like you're saying with Esteban, like when I signed up for his Patreon, I was like, I'm getting all these great heads at this price. I'm like, yo, I'm just able to print them out, just pop these bad boys out, and having that free ease and access makes it just so much better. Now, if I can just paint, I'll be even better.
Hey, there's groups for that too. So
I'm sure
no
there is.
excuses. No
So,
excuses. I was watching some, I don't know if you ever heard of him, but his name's Ninjon on YouTube, and he does model miniature painting, but he basically kind of breaks it down in layman's terms on how to do everything. And it's really hard because when you're trying to learn about painting and they're using these different types of techniques, and you're like, I don't know what dry brushing is. I don't know what an ink wash is, So it's really nice when you find somebody who breaks it down and you can start to get it right off the back. And that takes, like it makes model miniature painting a lot easier. And that's kind of like where I learned how to paint, because all of our prototypes, I paint those. And I've done it for a couple other lines. I don't know if you guys ever saw the 9 to 5 Warriors. They were like food fighters.
yes, yeah,
Yeah, they're like food fighters, but they're kind of updated. And Brandon, the guy who did those, he reached out to me and we talked a little bit, and I kind of gave him some direction and some help on the line. And I told him, I said, hey, look, you want those prototypes painted? I'll do it for free. And he ended up reaching out a couple months later and was like, hey, man, you mind painting these prototypes? And so went ahead and dived in there. And I think we had like 10 or 11 figures in the line. And that's something that should be coming up here recently, too. He was able to go ahead and get 4 of those figures in the first line, and those should be coming out pretty soon, too. So
nice. I did see those. Um, so kind of to go back, I know we jumped in a little, like pretty quickly, but to kind of go back, like how did you like what made you start? Did you start collect? Were you a collector beforehand, and then you wanted to say, hey, I want to start making my own action figures? Just tell us a lot about you.
So I grew up in a military family. So when we were little, we actually lived over in Germany. So we lived. You have like military housing, and then you have off base housing. So when you're on a military base, you're around other families, that are military, and they speak English. They're American. When you're off base, you're actually living with German families. So the majority of the time that we lived in Germany, we lived off base, and I was around German kids. So I didn't know how to talk to them. I didn't speak German. I was probably 4 or 5 years old. So the one thing that kind of was kind of like that international language was toys. we could sit here and we can play, He-Man, we could play G.I. Joes, and you can understand that, and you don't need to sit and talk about it, right? How often do we sit and we play, and most of the time we're making action noises, right? Jumping noises, running, fighting, stuff like that. You're not sitting here talking through the whole conversation of what that battle looks like. So that was kind of one of those things. So that always kind of drew me to having action figures. And it's funny because if you ever looked at pictures of me when I was little, everyone always has an action figure in it. I always had my He-Man toy, was running around, or He-Man toy was like laying down in the background where I dropped it and ran off and was doing something else. So yeah, I mean, that was kind of the thing that always drew me in to toys and action figures and stuff like that. And then of course being, growing up during the 80s and 90s, I feel like we were in the best of times as far as, the properties that were coming out. We had the Thundercats and Silverhawks and Ninja Turtles. Even, I was kind of getting out of it, but even we had Power Rangers and stuff like that. And now everything you kind of see it starting. I think most things are now kind of shifting towards like anime and things like that. So, but all of that stuff is why I always really loved action figures, trading cards, comics, and stuff like that. So.
Oh man, you said trading cards.
I was gonna say,
yeah.
That's like the magic word. The alarms go off. Wah, wah, word of the day.
Now we can get you some trading. These are new ones for this year. You can get you some trading cards. We can get you some trading cards.
All right, hey.
We can get you going.
Yeah, always need trading cards. I still have my trading cards. Had them for 20 years. I was in the third grade. Started collecting trading cards, and I still have my binder of trading cards from the third grade. And my 6-year-old son is headhunting for them trading cards. So he's like, Dad, when are you going to give me all the trading cards? And I'm like, dude, I've had those things for 20 years. I am not turning those over to you now. So, but yeah, I love trading cards.
Does he like Pokemon?
They are deep into Pokemon at this point. Okay. So yeah, they love it.
I got some extra Pokemon cards. I don't collect Pokemon.
Okay.
I'll be more than glad to send them to you.
Absolutely, they would love that. So they are hardcore into the Pokemon right now.
You know what? As long as I just it's nothing. I just want somebody who's gonna be happy with them.
Yeah, you're like me. I mean, if I got it and it's not gonna fit in my collection, I'm happy to send it to somebody else who's gonna enjoy it. Right? Bring a little joy to the world. Absolutely.
Greg asked, where in Germany and which base?
We were in Ramstein and Landstuhl.
There you go, Greg. You may know. I have no idea. I have no idea. It sounds like a band, like you just said, Ramstein and Landstuhl.
Yep, that was it. And so that was during that time. We had a lot more military forces over there, but now they're starting to kind of break all of that stuff down. So.
Gotcha. And then real quick, we'll welcome Bart. We got Bart here. We got Jeremy J. And Matchy. What's going on? How y'all doing?
White Mike was in there too. White Mike Vegeta's in there.
Oh, sorry, White Mike. Yes. Oh, Greg said I was at Ramstein as well. Oh wow.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, military.
That's Greg. Yeah. Greg's a good guy. Oh. Wait a minute. White Mike said, well, what is there in Germany from 83 to 87? Oh, are you saying you were there from 83? I'm curious.
So I was there from the time I was 1 all the way up until the time I was 7. So that would have been 1984 and up. So there wasn't really anything there outside of those military bases unless you went off base. And that was the thing. Like I see all of the, kind of classic style Marvel Legends and stuff. So that's what was out. The original Toy Biz figures was what was out at that point. and you had what was called a post exchange, was like just a little store, and that was the only place that you could get those X-Men action figures. So of course, by the time we got there, they had already been picked through. So it was always like the same old Toy Biz action figures and stuff like that. So it was really hard to build up a X-Men collection. But if you went off the military bases and you hit up those stores, the German stores, they had tons of them. But it was very rare that my parents would ever let me go and nerd out in one of the German stores around all the action figures.
Oh well, we got a lot of people who have been over there, and also yeah, if I could get this right, also been in the military. White Mike says his dad was stationed there.
Awesome.
So that's what you say. Oh yeah, so from Germany from 83 to 87. Okay, I got you.
Yeah. No, I mean it's a beautiful place, and the people, it's completely different than it is here. The culture there, everybody is just so nice. They're outgoing. They're willing to help. They live differently. Here it's like you hit a certain age, you're trying to get out of your parents' house. There, it's very family oriented, to the point where you have pretty much like 3 layers of family. So you have the grandparents that usually live on the bottom floor, and then you have your middle-aged parents that live in the middle floor, and then the younger kids live on the top floor. So as those families, kind of go through the ages, they siphon down. So as the grandparents that get older and pass away, then the next family would move down, then the next, and they continue to live in the same house that's been passed down, generationally. So that's awesome, because you have families that are staying together, and it brings people closer. And then you have these neighborhoods that, because they've lived in the same place for so long, they're close. They're almost like a close-knit family. And also you have that capability of where these families can start living more comfortably, because that home is already paid for and they're all working together. So it's a different place. It's a beautiful place. And I mean, if anybody ever has the opportunity to go there, and that's a place I definitely recommend going.
That's awesome. I didn't know that about their culture.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Same. That's really nice. After everybody, like, look, I ain't got to worry about going anywhere. This house is mine.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's not like, everything there, because of the way they're living, these houses are quality houses. Even I used to work doing security when I got out of the military, and I was working in these high-end neighborhoods, and even these homes were like $5 million and up just to get in these neighborhoods. And you would watch them go up in the span of a month. They would throw up these mansions, boom, in a month, right? But the quality wasn't there. And then you go over to places, in Europe, and you see these homes, and they've been there forever. And it's amazing, like the quality that they put into building a house.
Now you make me almost want to go visit there. I still got 2 more places to go before I go for Germany. But man, that wow. And here he is, Mr. Esteban. He says, "Hey guys, how you doing?"
Yeah, that's all. Hey, the whole team, almost the whole team's here.
That's awesome.
There you go. So Landon, tell us a little bit how Invincible Toys got started. Like how you come up with the idea. And I did, because I remember seeing the Kickstarter for it, and I missed out on it. I was so mad, but I remember seeing it. And so if you can, for the folks who are not familiar with it, if you can tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah. So, like I said, I've always kind of grown up with action figures. And to me, action figures kind of rest in a special place in my heart. Those are the things that bring me joy, even when things were different and were chaotic, moving around, not, it's a different thing when you can't communicate with people, so when you're trying to learn those things, you're looking for places of comfort, right? And then having to move every couple of years because my father was, in that military. We were in that military lifestyle. We were going from different neighborhoods, different schools, and stuff like that. So you find those things that bring you, or kind of help ground you. And I guess that's kind of what action figures always were. It was something that was always there that I could go to my own place and feel comfortable with. So that always kind of brought me kind of this joy, and I collected all the way, through high school. Eventually, I met a friend. He was a couple years older than me. He was in law enforcement, but he did uh, child and youth services. And in that, he was seeing a lot of these really bad crimes and stuff like that, child abuse, murders. Um, and one day I was talking to him. I was interested in law enforcement, so I was always hanging around him. Decided that I was going to, eventually go into law enforcement. And we were talking one day, and he was like, "Man, I kind of wish I just had like an outlet to be able to focus on something else outside of what I'm always having to deal with." So I asked him. I said, "Hey, man, like, what are you into? Like, what do you think, might kind of help you in that process?" So he was like, "Well, there's this company that makes these really detailed military action figures." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And it was like, Blue Box and Dragon and stuff like that. I don't even know if they still exist anymore. But so they made really detailed, 12-inch action figures with all the gear and all the accessories. And I said, "Well, man, look, why don't you just start collecting these things? Like, if you think that might help you through the process." So he ended up starting his collection. I was still collecting. I was collecting Star Wars and GI Joes and stuff like that, Marvel Legends. And eventually it got to the point where we had such a huge collection that it was like, man, like, how cool would it be to start selling toys? Like, make a business out of this. So we kind of did a startup. We were hitting a bunch of shows, toy shows and stuff. We were making a pretty decent amount of money. We came up with the name of the company, Invincible Toys. And this was back in 2003. So 2003, we decide, hey, we're going to do the company. We started making a website. Things started taking off. And then the stock market crashed. So nobody was buying action figures. Nobody wanted action figures and collectibles. It was like pulling teeth just to get rid of stuff. And we're talking about really good stuff. This is when Toy Biz was really putting the time and effort into the Marvel Legends. They were affordable. They were around $10, $11. You were getting the things like, the Captain Americas and the Iron Men and stuff like that. And yeah, it was just like people just quit collecting. It was just kind of a rough time for everybody. So we liquidated everything. And kind of put the business to the side, and it ended up like, just at that point it was kind of dead. So we continue like collecting personally and stuff like that. And it wasn't until 3 years ago that one day I was just sitting there and I was looking at some Joy Toys 4-inch action figures, and they run, they have like the more futuristic guys with all the gear. And I said, man, this stuff is awesome. And it was hitting on all the cylinders. It was like detailed. It had the articulation, all the gear. It's kind of, it fell in that kind of military line that I enjoy. And I was like, man, but they don't have this in 1/12 scale. And that's what I was collecting. So I said, how cool would it be if we had something similar, but in this scale? So I sat down. I was like, I'm going to do this. And literally it happened in minutes. So I sat down, I grabbed, some printer paper, and I'm just drawing. I'm drawing, and I'm like, man, like, I think this is a cool concept, but how do I make it different? How do I make it different than what they're doing here? And that's when I came up with the idea to make them based on warriors and soldiers throughout time. So I started drawing, and I said, well, got to have a Spartan. We need a samurai. Next is a cowboy. Now we need kind of like an African warrior. So, and all of these designs were just kind of rolling through. So I just drew them. So I'm looking at them and I'm like, how awesome would it be to like just like push this into an action figure line? And from that like day on, it was constantly just learning the process to get them made into action figures. And I just taught myself, and it was a lot of trial and error. It was like, you know, the whole printing process. It was like finding somebody to sculpt it, trying to find a legitimate factory that was going to be able to make action figures and not run away with all of our money. We had a huge time where that was happening on Kickstarter, you know, and it was like, do you really want to go kickstart a project or fund a Kickstarter project because people were losing money? You know, and it wasn't even intentionally. They would get up with a factory, and then the factories were literally holding their molds hostage. So you paid these thousands of dollars for molds, and now the factory's saying, well, we want more money, you know, or we're not going to give you your molds or whatever the case is. And when you're doing those Kickstarter campaigns, what you have is what you have. There is no, you know, hey, let me go just ask everybody for a couple more $1,000, right? But and that kind of changed over time as more and more of these campaigns ended up getting funded. So yeah, that was it. It kind of started one day, and I was like, hey, there used to be an Invincible Toys, and I'm like, you know, I'm not one of those people that usually gives up or quits on something. So I was like, we're bringing back, and we're going with Invincible Toys, and we're going to continue that, you know, kind of legacy of the company. So that's where we are.
It's a great origin story, man. It's really
Yeah.
cool. And it's just great. Like, it's amazing how creativity just hits. You know, personally, I'm not that creative of a guy, but you know, for friends that are or people in the community, it just hits you out of nowhere. It just comes out of nowhere. And the fact that you started drawing these up like that's amazing. It came to you, right?
Yeah, they're on the screen now. If you look right there, those are some of the original drawings. You can see like the rougher drawings next to where those drawings were sent out to a professional artist, and how they, you know, kind of cleaned them up and everything like that. So in the center, you have Ranger, and then to the left of that, you have the professional drawing. And then you can kind of see how this process breaks down, where that's the original helmet, Shapeways. That's it, Shapeways. So Shapeways did this helmet for me. You know, somebody sculpted it and then went through and had it printed through Shapeways, but that was the original Ranger helmet before I went back through and had it redone. So yep. And that was, yeah. So part of that process is always, what I like to do is I like to go, and once I get that idea, I'll go through and pull all of these reference images that, you know, something in it kind of draws to me. And in this one, I kind of liked how the mouth guard kind of came in, and, you know, the goggles and everything. So that one, you know, goes and gets pulled to the side, and I start compiling all of these images, and, you know, just kind of building off of whatever concept I have.
Nice.
So yep, there's the breakdown. And where these get important is because what you're going to get is your shared parts. So when you're launching a line and you're going to have multiple figures, and we see it all the time, and you hear about it, of course, through like Marvel Legends, you're like, oh man, they share the Bucky Cap body or whatever the case is. And of course, it's not maybe as acceptable because these larger companies, they're making figures for, you know, maybe like $3 because they're making so many of them. So they're just, you know, they're just getting their money's worth, and they've already made it back when they start doing that. But when you're launching a line, you're talking about almost $4,000 per mold set. So when you're getting into a line and you have, you know, usually between 4 or 5 figures, you're talking almost like $40,000 worth of molds. So that's where this part sharing is important. And, you know, you get the breakdown. And then what I would do is I would get all of these breakdowns and pull in all the other parts, and you would have to color code them. So maybe like on Ranger, because I would just pick a color. So Ranger, his primary color was green. I would paint all of his parts green. And then we would have somebody like Samurai, and because he was red, all of his specific parts would be red. And then you would take those and you would basically send those out to the factory and say, hey, look, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find a price point on how much it would cost to make these figures. And these are the shared parts. And then the factory would be able to, give you a better price because they know that they're going to be able to reuse those molds.
Gotcha. Let's see. We did have a question. What's the statement? Actually, let me make sure. Okay. Bart, going back a little bit, Bart said, almost went to TDY to Germany last year, but got blacklisted from the trip because my leadership sucks.
Yeah, Bart. I talked to Bart off and on too. Great guy.
Bart is great. Even though he bothers me about his Indiana Jones, he jokes with me about his Indiana Jones hat. Bart is a good guy. He's a good guy. Him and Greg, two funny guys. I love talking to them. Let's see. I know this on here. What's going on, Mike? Another Mike High School Creations. Another one. I'm not sure if you're familiar with his Wall XD. He did his Kickstarter very well.
Yes, yeah. We jumped on Mike's show and we actually we went on with Mike and we were talking action figures and stuff like that, and then I had a great opportunity to stay on after the show and we talked, and he told me about what he was doing and we were able to kind of go back and forth, and hopefully some of the advice I gave him helped him out there. But Mike's another really great guy, and I'm so happy that the Wall XD got funded. Because I know that feeling. I know that feeling in that kind of anxiety that it creates, like trying to create these projects and hoping that they'll get funded. And Kickstarter is like, I don't know. I feel like it's like that girl you used to see in high school, and you're like, oh man, one day I'm gonna ask her out. One day I'm gonna ask her out, and then you get there. And you get so nervous that you're like, never mind, I'm just not, But I feel like that's like that anxiety you get on Kickstarter. You're like, oh man, are we going to get funded? Oh, we're not going to get funded. Oh, we are going to get funded. No, we're not. We're not going to get funded. And you're like constantly in this battle with yourself. So when you finally get funded and you realize that something you've been working on for so long is going to happen, yeah, it's an amazing feeling.
Yeah, and I'm glad with Mike. It was great because the community came out and rallied behind him very well, and I'm glad it was successful. And all the congrats go to Mr. High School Creations, Mr. Mike. We'll call him Mr. Mike now, Mr. Mike.
And I mean, outside of the Wall XD, I mean, Mike is making some of the, in my opinion, some of the best dios, out there. So
very much indeed. Pokey87 says, Sally, I think Blue Box and BBI are long gone.
Yeah. I mean, they were kind of like the hot toys of 1/12 scale military or 1/6 scale military figures. And I kind of feel like that's where a lot of these superhero characters even spawned from was, I mean, they were out before we had anything like that, before we started getting these Marvel characters. I think they were doing military, and then they kind of broke into, I think Sideshow started doing Star Wars, and then we started seeing the Marvel and superhero characters start to break out. So, yeah.
Happy Accident says, and I have some of your figures ordered via Kickstarter.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. No, we appreciate any support.
And White Mike Vegeta says, will you be coming to Joe Fest?
Yes. So we will have showing there at Joe Fest. Esteban will be going, and we will be sending the FCS, the Futuristic Combat Soldier prototypes, and he'll be bringing the Fist prototypes along with them, and we'll be doing some cool trading cards that you can pick up there, and they'll have a QR code to where you can scan in and check out stuff that we're doing.
Oh, that's awesome. So now, how far along are the Invincible Toys now? Because I know you had the Kickstarter, and that went well. How far now are you along with those to be able to say we'll be shipping them out probably within this time frame. Or
Yeah.
you can't say that's
No, that's one of those things I'll never shy away from. I know it's kind of hard to really nail down, these times, and I think the time of where we used to get these solidified dates, even from big box stores, or like Hasbro and Mattel, are kind of starting to go out the door because we're hitting different constraints across the line. It's not just, it's not always the factory. We had a point where our factory didn't go to work for 2 weeks and they couldn't. China told them, they said, you're not going to work. So they couldn't go to work for 2 weeks. And these things, they keep coming up. And I know a lot of places are like, well, it's COVID. And you can tell, especially like working in the industry and working with the factories and shipping and stuff like that, you can kind of tell when the stories are BS and when they're legitimate. Right. And I will say that the things that are happening with COVID, things in the shipping and things as far as the factory and what they're dealing with in their economy, those are legitimate. So I think for the most part, an action figure usually takes about 12 months to make an action figure from start to finish. With COVID, it probably pushed that process back an extra 4 to 6 months. So where it would normally take us about, a year to make an action figure, now you're looking at, a year and 4 to 6 months. So we're moving along. The one good thing about our factory is that they're very consistent, in their pacing and stuff. They're maybe not the fastest factory, but they're very consistent in what they do, and they kind of pace through it. And we have a good working relationship with them. So when we go back and forth, if I see something, they're very tentative on making sure that stuff gets fixed. And something else that we've been doing is, as we move along, I've constantly kind of been trying to figure out ways, to add a little bit more value. I mean, I feel like here, even if you just look at this, there's a lot of value there, between the heads, the hands, the multiple weapons, the interchangeable parts and stuff like that. There's a lot of value, but I'm constantly trying to find ways to add more value. So like I'm working with the factory now, and like Spartan, that figure doesn't come with shoulder pads originally, but looking at it, I was playing around and I was putting parts on it, and I realized he looked really cool if you took samurai shoulder pads and put those on him. So what I'm doing now is I'm talking to the factory, and as we go through our paint process, we're getting those price quotes to figure out how much more it would cost to go ahead and add those shoulder pads in. And if it's something that, it's not expensive, then we just go ahead and throw those in there too. So
do you find that is the communication with the factory pretty good? Like, you have a question, they get back to you, that you get back to them real quickly. It's a pretty good working relationship with that.
Absolutely. And that's not always the case, because even when I was getting price quotes, I mean, I probably talked to at least 12 factories, and it was actually by chance that I ended up running across Symbiote Studios. I was just looking through something, I don't even think it was for me, and I was looking at stuff, and then I came across it, and then I realized, I was like, oh, wow, this is a partially US-based factory, and all this other stuff that kind of added up, for what we were looking for. And then we ended up deciding to go with them. But in this search to find a factory, even just looking for quotes, you would think like, oh, somebody's interested to work with our factory. We want, that income. So let me get that quote back, and let me at least in the beginning, make them feel like we have positive communication. I wouldn't hear back from some of these people, for days, for weeks. And then all of a sudden, I would get something back after I've already heard from multiple other factories, and I would just take them off the list. I was like, look, man, if you can't respond to me within at least X amount of days, I know you're not going to be doing that for me when we're actually going through this process. But Symbiote is very responsive. If I emailed, I work with a young lady there who's our liaison. Her name's Kay. And I know if I went and I sent something to Kay tonight, that she would have an answer to me at least by tomorrow. And there's that time difference. That's the only thing too. And I remember somebody was on talking about it the other day, and that also adds to that kind of time frame, is that when it's daytime here, it's nighttime there, and vice versa. So if I write an email, she's getting it at a different time than we are. So you're kind of like, okay, I'm going to bed and I send out an email, she's waking up, reading my email, responding, and then I'm getting it in the morning. So it's like you kind of have that time difference that adds to the kind of the process of it too.
That was actually my next question, which you answered, was do you more or less have a point person you go through? So any question you might have, you'll communicate with her, and then she'll reach out to whatever team she needs to at the factory to get the answer for you, I suppose.
Yeah, it's kind of, every factory runs differently. So one of the things, a lot of factories kind of want everything already done as much as possible when you send it to them, right? In this case, basically what they do is you would send them the sculpt and then they would build in the articulation for you. I didn't know that, so we were kind of working, on two different levels. If I would have known that going into it, things might have been different, but I had already finished the project by then. So I figured, I was like, oh, I'm really good to go. I'll just take this, send this to people. They'll run it through the process and we'll change what we have to, and that'll speed things up. So it just depends on the factory on how they do things, but she's pretty much like that point person. And I know that's really huge because a lot of factories don't have that, and they'll have to hire somebody that will basically go and represent your company and be in that factory and have to do all of these checks to make sure that these figures are coming out the way you want them to. Because if not, you end up with a subpar product and there's no going back. Once you've spent that money, it's gone, And like I said, sometimes you can kind of get in the factory can kind of put you in a chokehold, and you end up with something you don't want. So she's great. Yeah. I mean, she's an awesome as far as being a liaison for us.
That's good. That's good to hear that you have somebody over there looking out for you.
Yeah, Symbiote Studios, they're pretty awesome, and they're very responsive. We got back our paint masters. I don't know if I send that over, I can send that over to somebody's email if you guys want to post the new paint masters.
Yeah, you can send it to me.
Give me a second here.
I'll put it in the chat real quick. Let's see.
Yeah, I haven't had an opportunity to put these through. They're pretty new, but I'll send them over, and then everybody can.
While you're sending those over, and Dante's pulling that up, what goes on to Mr. Wonderful? He just popped in. Also, NJ Tree is in the house. What's up, guys?
What's going on, gentlemen? I just sent it over to the private chat, so. Email too. That would help.
All right. What's the email? Send that over to you.
Oh, I put it in the private chat. If you click on the private chat, it should have it in there.
Let's see here.
Oh, sorry. Hold on. That's the wrong one.
I gotta send full screen. Okay, there it is.
Oh no, that's not the wrong. That's not the right one.
Wrong one.
Yeah. They'll be like, who is this? Give me a sec. Here we go. Sorry. Okay, the second one's the correct.
All right, perfect.
So while we wait for that, also, so how did the collaboration between you and Esteban come about? Because I'm really curious about that one.
So that was actually really kind of interesting, and that's like a pretty cool story. You guys will probably enjoy here because that's got a lot of like other information on things that we're working on in it. So. Ooh. Here you go. Figure. All right, cool. That should be coming through to you.
Okay.
So, Like I said, as far as the team goes, Ewert, Strident, people know him as Strident if they're following his channel. He's part of the team. There's another guy with us. His name is Seth Horton. He actually just did Once Upon a Hero that got funded. It was a comic book on Kickstarter, which is a great comic book, awesome concept in what he's doing. He's kind of doing an anthology about heroes and villains that come across like real life situations and how they deal with it. And it's an amazing comic book if you guys get a chance to check it out. So anyways, it was the three of us at the time. It was Esteban, Seth, and myself, and we were going through all of the things that we want to do. So one of the things I really believe in is that I always try to look at us as one cohesive group in the sense that nobody is, even though maybe I started Invincible Toys, I don't sit here and think of myself as any higher than the other guys in the group, right? I always kind of believe as like a round table. When King Arthur sat at the round table, he was equal. So I always look at it the same way. We're always equal. We always have the ability to bring ideas to the table. And what I wanted to see was I wanted to give the other guys in the group the same capabilities to be able to bring their ideas and see those come to reality. So as we went through and I met Ewert and we got to talking, I learned about his ideas and what he wanted to do, Seth and, his ideas and all of those things. And we basically kind of figured out like how we were going to pursue those. So long story short, Ewert and we were talking about the line, and Ewert was doing the designs and we were working on it. And we got to the point where we had enough income to go ahead and pursue having them sculpted. And this is kind of the beginning of that production process. And this is where things start getting expensive. So you're paying, it could be anywhere. If you find someone who is doing sculpting and stuff like that, a lot of times what will happen is you'll end up finding a sculptor who's really good, who is from overseas, because their price point is somewhere that fits in the regular guy's range. You're not paying, $3,000 to $6,000 to have somebody basically sculpt out an action figure. So we were coming down and we were trying to figure out like, hey, who are we going to go with? Whose style do we like and stuff like that? And we're going through and we're looking at all of these sculptors. And I had already talked to Esteban before, and he was doing the fist line and he was looking at doing the Kickstarter. And I said, hey man, I'm just reaching out. I already did a Kickstarter, he had shown interest in the line before. So I was like, cool, dude. Like, I'd be glad to help you out with the Kickstarter or to help you, get to that point, whatever the case is. So we had talked before, and we're going through and we're looking at sculptors, and Ewert's like, this guy. He was like, this guy, I like this guy's style. I think he would have the ability to take my art and what I'm doing and transition it over to an action figure. And I said, dude, like, I'm friends with him. I'm like, I talked to him. He does the fist line, and, I was like, yeah, let me reach out to him and maybe he would be interested in doing it. So sure enough, I reach out and I told him what we were doing, and he asked me, he was like, so is this like paid, or, like, what are you guys looking for? And I said, well, we're like average guys. We don't have a lot of money, but we'll try to pay you as much as we can, like, as long as we can fit it in our price range, we'll pay as much as we can. And he was like, I'm more interested in being in a team, in a group, and doing something that would, achieve more and get to be part of something bigger. And I was like, wow, like, that's awesome, because that's how we are. None of us get paid for any of this. I'm not getting any sort of money or income. Ewert's not, Seth's not. Like, all of the time that we invest, this is essentially a part-time job. I work full-time. I come home. I got 4 boys. I'm a full-time father, and I still try to do this. And this is pretty much takes up a part-time job. And as much as I would like to invest more time into it, that's just the way it is. And then you guys know how it is. You have these set in these limited incomes as a family, you know. So you kind of put aside what you can and put it to these projects, and you escalate as you get more income. So he was like, dude, I just want to be part of the group. He was like, I want to be part of the group. And I was like, man, like that's kind of what we're all about. And I think that that's an amazing quality in people. When people are willing to go outside of themselves and to spend their time or take their talents and abilities and do something and not have that expectation of a return, that's an amazing thing, you know? So I was like really impressed by that. I was like, dude, this is somebody that we need in our group. So I talked to the other guys. I told them the situation. They were, you know, they were super impressed. They were super excited about it. And I talked to Esteban, and he was like, yeah, dude, absolutely. Like, I'd love to be part of that. And the cool thing is he had other offers. Other people were interested in the Fist line. And he was like, you know, just this kind of mentality that you guys have is what draws me to the group. And I'd be willing to, you know, put aside those other offers just to be part of that. So that's kind of how everything happened. And we brought Fist under the Invincible Toys mantle. And I feel like, you know, with what's going on with the futuristic combat soldiers and certain connections and stuff that we have, that's really going to help kind of bring up both of those lines. So the goal now is that we want to go ahead and make sure that we can get Fist out. And it didn't get funded off the original Kickstarter, and I don't think that was any fault of Esteban's. I just think that everything kind of happened really quick, and when you don't have that ability to kind of build up those followers and do certain steps that are kind of almost like a minimum requirement, that it has these kind of effects on your Kickstarters and everything. So we're in an awesome spot now that because of Esteban's relationship with his factory over in Colombia, that they agreed to go ahead and make the molds, which is huge because we just talked about it. You're talking about thousands of dollars to have these done. And because of that situation and their connection, they said, hey, we'll take care of it. You guys just, as you guys get, you know, start making income off of it, if you guys could help us pay back for some of those molds. And it was like, wow. So we talked, we kind of reevaluated the situation on what to do with Fist. And we decided like, hey, if we already have these figures and we're going to be able to basically have production figures, let's wait. Let's wait until we have the production figures. We can send out samples to people who can review them, can check them out, see what they're all about. We can go in, we can get pretty promotional pictures of figures that actually aren't going to fall apart because we printed them, you know, which is a whole nother story. If you guys ever get the time, I'll tell you that. But you know, where people can see actually what they're getting and the quality of it, that's amazing. So that's something that we're doing. We're going through that process. We're going to go ahead. We're going to get those Fist figures, and then we're going to go through the steps to get that line launched. And that'll be coming, you know, shortly behind the futuristic combat soldiers. One thing that was always really important to me was to make sure that what we got out before pursuing anything else was something that was quality. You know, I don't want you to get something in your hands and go, man, this is crap. And then, you know, like that takes away the legitimacy of a company. And that's not always the case because you know, you do your best on your first go around and you kind of learn from it. But I wanted to make sure like it was something that would be synonymous with Invincible Toys, that, hey, you know what? Even on the first round, this was a pretty good figure. We trust them enough to look at investing in the company and wanting to buy more things from them. And kind of what happened with Fist, I know we got hit hard. We were doing a live on Instagram and somebody was like, well, you know, why are you putting out more stuff? You haven't given us anything yet. And it was like, it's kind of not what the circumstances were. You know, this kind of came about and now we're doing something in, you know, almost in a whole nother area that wasn't really planned. So we're still doing the best we can as far as getting out those futuristic combat soldiers, making sure we have something quality, but we're going to put the same amount of effort into making sure that Fist does the same thing, you know? So yeah, that's kind of how we met and how that all worked itself out. And I can't really talk too much about it because it just happened recently, but we've had some other things kind of come up that is pretty exciting, that you guys will hopefully be able to talk about it, and you'll be able to see some of that stuff possibly at Joe Fest. So
Nice.
And
Well,
that's
I can't wait.
when you have an opportunity, you have to go for it. So the fact that that aligned for you the way it did with Esteban, and again, I think it's really important too for your brand that you're putting it out there and you're saying we want that first impression to be good. The first impressions are so important. I think back to watching Infinity Equation. When Bobby Vallow was on here talking about Action Force and being concerned with the figures coming over on the boat, or is the articulation going to be locked up? Like you want everything to be as perfect as it is, because that first impression, man, you get something in your hand and it breaks, and it's like, all right, I'm done, I'm out. And the company might be learning that consumer might be already dialed out at that point.
Right, and you really don't have those opportunities to kind of rewind and say, oh, look, guys, we're sorry. You can make it better. You can say, look, it's a factory defect. We did see that, where Valver's had the bubble in the ankle joint, and he made it right. And that's all you can really do. You come back and say, hey, look, hang on, stay with us. We will make this right. And if you still want to continue with our line, at least we'll do the best we can to make this right for you guys. So, Bobby's pretty lucky because he comes from a place where he has the experience. He's worked with the companies. He kind of knows what to expect. He knows the process. He knows the sculpting and stuff like that. We kind of weren't as lucky. Kind of had to try to learn everything from scratch. And I'm nowhere near, professional at doing it. So it's just like going through the process, learning, and hoping that you're doing the best you can at the max capacity of what you have as far as knowledge wise. So, I do feel like at this point, people that have held it, they're Spartan, but these guys, they're solid. They're, really nice. The articulation on them is really smooth. The paint, I sent over the paint samples.
Yeah.
If you want to pop those up, we can show those too. But yeah, the factory's doing a great job, and these are really nice, really solid figures. So I think people will enjoy them for, the price range that we're giving them out in.
There we go.
Yeah, so this is actually the Spartan figure, and this is the first one that they're working on as far as the Paint Master goes. But it's super smooth. The kind of base coat is really nice. They did a really great job on this. But one of the things with futuristic combat soldiers are they're supposed to be, kind of fighting, I guess in kind of a adverse world. They're constantly fighting things. So the armor and stuff like that, they have a good ways to go on doing the weathering and the detailing and stuff like that. We sat down, and luckily I talked to you about KR Liaison, and she said, hey, this is what I see. Let's sit down and talk about it. And everything that I saw were pretty much all the same things that she was seeing too. So that's always nice to know that the person that you're working with is seeing the same thing, and that you're going to be on the same page, because the last thing you want to do is be like, oh, this, and this, and feel like you're kind of nitpicking it. But she was on the same page. We were like, hey, we really need to bring out some of that grittiness, get down there, hit the highlight areas, bring out all of the lines and stuff like that in the armor. Like the holster is supposed to be black. The hair is supposed to kind of have highlights. The cape, the clasp on it is supposed to be black. And if you kind of shoot through it, you'll see the back of the cape, and it's supposed to be dirty. It's supposed to have weathering. The shield here was painted in a pink, where that shield is supposed to be done in translucent plastic. So
Gotcha.
all of those little things, it's just going through that process and making sure everything's right.
Now with this one, now what they have now in the capes, are you planning to have them like a wire cape, or is it just going to be kind of like just like a regular cloth cape?
No, those are wired 300, 360. So
Oh,
everything in there, the wire runs through it, and they're dual sided. So,
oh, nice.
if you want to switch it, you want to go black, you want to go red. That's, I felt like that was one of those little things that you could do to add a little bit more value to the figure that wasn't going to cost anything, so why not do it? And it's a nice accent. It really accents the armor compared to the underneath of the cloak. So yeah, but that's completely wired. And then if you flip around, you'll see one of the other pictures. And then, like I said, the red side is going to be is actually going to be dirty and have weathering and stuff like that on it, so it kind of matches the rest of the armor.
Gotcha. Wow, that's awesome. Because that's the first time I ever heard anybody say like a dual sided cape.
Yeah, yeah. I like I said, I really love details. In the armor on the futuristic combat soldiers, if you kind of look at it, it looks pretty simple, but it has a lot of lines, a lot of details and stuff like that to kind of really accent it. Even like the paint, there were certain areas that were painted to accent parts of the armor and stuff like that. And in the figure, that was one of those big things in the paint, is like, hey, I want to be able to see it. I want people to be able to see the detail. To feel like this guy's been fighting, what he's fighting and stuff like that. So yeah, this is the base, and it still has a lot of work as far as the details go, but it's still nice to look at it and see where we are.
Yeah. We got a couple comments here too from everybody. NYC joins us, says, "Yo, what's up? What's up, everybody?" Justin collects says, "Hello, hello, gentlemen. Hope all is well." Bart says, "Esteban is cool. I wrote all his fist files for free." Just a real quick on that too. I felt bad for Esteban when he launched Fist for the Kickstarter, because it was at a time that everything was going on. There was a lot going on during that time, and it was like everybody's money was kind of being pulled left and right.
Yeah,
And I
it's
wanted him to succeed so badly, and I was like, I felt so bad for him. And just
and
it was hard.
I mean, looking at that line, there's no reason why. Like, there's nothing physically missing from the sculpts, from the weapons and accessories and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
there's really no reason why it shouldn't be successful. And like you said, it was just kind of bad timing. And I know what that was like. I was coming off of Sparrow's Animal Warriors of the Kingdom, and then Skeletron hit, like the Robo Skull hit like right at the end of our campaign, and I just watched money like just shoot out. People would cancel their orders, and you knew where it was going. And I mean, I couldn't blame them. I ordered one. I should have like, hey, let me throw this money towards my own line. And I ordered one later on, after kind of when they went on the site sales. But yeah, I couldn't blame people. I was like, dude, that thing is beautiful. And, it has such a mass following already from the Action Force, the original Action Force. So to have that opportunity and to know, like, getting vehicles in that scale for that price, that was an amazing deal. So for people to pass on that, man, I was like, man, that's crazy. Um, so yeah, it was kind of rough. It was, like I said, man, it was that kind of intense moment where it's like, are we going to make this? I don't know. But we kind of set things up in a way that was going to be beneficial to kind of help us, kind of get through the long run. So yeah, we were lucky.
Gotcha. Poke87 says, "No customer service in the game like Valverse," which is very true. But I will always try and make it right. Ted Darkclaw says, "Hey friends, listening while I drive. Cheers to you all." So if you when you're ready to go retail, hit my man up, Ted. He'll hit Hella Dope Toys is a great place to order. If you haven't ordered from, go ahead and order from. Get all your figure needs. But yes, I'm just telling you. It's just like, so I'm just saying, man. I'm just making hookups. He sells some good. He can sell some good figures. He can sell some toys. As Greg says, toy maker guest and a toy seller in the chat. Can't go wrong. Bart says Samurai is my favorite. Iodine74 says Cowboy is my favorite. I like this one too. Well, heck, I ordered 6 different ones, so it's more than just those.
Yeah, it's always hard. It's always hard to choose a favorite, especially when you start playing with them. Because I've always been partial to Spartan, but the more you start to play with it and pose them around, and you get to see that they're very posable. It's very easy to kind of get them into awesome poses right off the back, and that's one of the things I've always loved about them. So the more I play with them, the more you kind of start to fall in love with certain characteristics of the characters and everything. So yeah, I mean,
Pokey87 says once these guys show up, the cakes won't be the only thing completely wired. Oh, we got some wild ones here.
That's all right.
But they're great. They're a great group. The Goon Squad's good. Goon Squad keeps everybody happy and laughing in good spirits. Hey, Tizzle says, hey there. That's for you, Tim.
Aye.
Iodine says, Landon, those arms are kind of bowed on the shot. Are they going to be able to come closer to the body more?
Yeah, so that's just what they did is they posed it that way so you could see all the paint on the forearms and the arms and stuff. When I designed it, I actually, because I'm so like big into action figures and stuff. Like I have tons of action figures. Like that white closet back there, it's filled with action figures. They're just waiting to finish this office so I could get them displayed up. But one of the big things is that I purposely go and buy action figures that have unique designs and articulation, paint schemes, stuff like that. Because at some point, if it's really quality or if it's unique and it's going to work or it's going to add something to the figure, I like to have it around so I can use it as a reference. So one day I was listening to Boog Nice, and he was going through and he was talking about the action figures, and he was like, oh, the arms, I can't stand it when the arms are stuck like this. And I said, damn, you know what? I hate it when the arms do that too. So when I had it designed, I told the sculptor, in particular, I said, look, we got to make sure that it can do at least 2 things. It's got to be able to get the leg up 90 degrees, and it's got to be able to get the arms flat to the sides. So that was part of the stipulation when he did it, and they came out. So yeah, you can get the arms to the sides, you can get them across the chest. The big thing was that they could hold their weapons. If you have a 2-handed weapon, you have a katana, like you got to be able to hold it the right way.
Yeah.
You don't want your guy running around and he's like, and can't hold his sword. Or I always hate it when you get this, where it's like it's almost there and you get the fingertips on it. So you're, that drives me nuts. So being a person that, like I carry a weapon every day. So to me, I'm like, I have an attachment to my firearm. And I'm like, I can't stand it when an action figure can't hold it the right way, whether it be a bladed weapon or a firearm or just whatever it is. If you're going to design a character to do something, then make sure it does it. And that's a big thing. Articulation is huge to me. I want to make sure, like, hey, are they going to be able to kick 90 degrees even though they have those the armor on? Yeah, they can go 90 degrees. Can they do splits? Yeah, they can do splits. Like, so the articulation was big. The paint is a big thing too. Like, I didn't want to just design a figure that had a couple of good things about it. I wanted to make sure that the figures had everything was good about it, where we really spent the time on the paint. We really spent the time on the articulation. We wanted to make sure that they had good weapons and accessories, because I'm a collector, and we all know we're at that point where you can't buy everything you want all the time, and especially now with the way the economy is. So when you look at something, you want to make sure that you're going to get your value for the hard-earned money that you're spending.
I would say articulation is huge. Like you were talking about articulation with the weapons. I always say when I get a figure that's a sword wielder, but it has a horizontal articulation in the hand, where you want where you want it to be actually vertical. So those little things make such a big difference when it comes to a figure holding a weapon.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that's kind of like one of those things that you don't really think about it until you go, and then you're kind of like messing with it, and then you're like, wow, you know what, like maybe that should have been done differently. And still to this day, I mean, I basically had these done 2 years ago, so I look back and I'm like, man, you know, I wish we could have added that. And there were still little things that we were able to add into it that made a big difference. So like one of the things is that in the legs, we squared off the keyhole for the holster, right? So it keeps, when you plug that holster in, that holster's not going to rotate all over the place. It's going to fit in snug and it's going to stay upright. So then when you remove the holster, if you were going, because they were left and right sides, in case you wanted the character to be left-handed or right-handed, but then you have the hole. So what we did is we made a mechanical insert to be able to fill those holes. And that was something we were able to do later on through the line. And, you know, I thought that was really cool design. We had the holes in the back where you can plug it into the back, mount the weapons to the back. But something that was like, you know, it's hindsight 2020. When I designed Samurai, I ended up designing the sheath for the sword later, and we had already designed the hips and everything, and we weren't able to mount the sheath. So in a lot of the pictures, you'll see where he's kind of like holding that sheath, you know. So I'm hoping what we can do is later after this line, when we get to have a chance to kind of go back through and, you know, we're able to sell the line and reinvest that money into doing new molds and stuff. You know, it might be something simple like just creating kind of a piece where you can pop off the waist and then put that around that would sit, that sheath would be able to fit into, or maybe just, you know, redesigning the whole figure to where it's maybe something on the hip that you would be able to plug it into. So,
You know, I'm glad that you're saying this because unlike my stepfather, Todd McFarlane, he doesn't listen to any of us.
I think there's a bunch of companies out there that are doing the right thing. You know, they're listening to what people say, and then they're making those adjustments within reason. One of the, you know, like if you look at Ramen Toys, they've been doing a great job at that. And you're going to sell more when you're listening to what people are saying. And you can't always do it. You know, if somebody said, well, man, dude, you should have put something on the Samurai where he could plug his sheath in. Yeah, I know, you know, but I can't. Like, we're too far in to be able to do something like that. But trust me, if we could, we would, you know. So sometimes you're a little too far in. But when you're in the beginning process of things, or you're continuously doing something like McFarlane is, and you hear what people are saying and you're not making those adjustments, then something's wrong, you know. And I'll give a lot of credit to Ramen for what they're doing when they're taking what people are saying and bringing that over and being able to make those adjustments where they can. And that's what's going to make people happy. And whether it's what you wanted or if it's what somebody else wanted, at least they know that you're listening.
Right. And I appreciate that because my stepdad Toddy, he ain't doing it right. Yeah.
He's got something going on, right? Because people are buying up those figures, and I mean,
I don't know. You know what? I'm not gonna go my tirade tonight. Promise myself, 2023 was not the year.
I will give a lot of love for somebody who's going to continue to sell action figures for $20 in 20, you know, in this era that we're in now where everything is skyrocketing.
But that's fine. It's just like, they don't fit in with anything. It's like I got a huge DC.
Yeah. I don't, you know,
I'd rather pay more for this than Toddy's $20 figure because I know at least get some accessories with this. I can get some articulation out of it. Now, there's some people like Pack and Matthew who can get some good, you know, some good poses out of those McFarlane ones. But I want something that I can fully pose. Like I can take the time, like I can get him in different poses like he's supposed to. Not like half like crouch and he's got I can still see like little things on it like that.
Yeah, some of those are hit and miss. I mean, that new Batman that he did, that's that. I mean, that.
I got asked which one because he's done like 50,000.
Okay. So the newest one, does that fall under the Nightfall Batman where he's got the blue and the yellow chest emblem?
Yeah.
that's what I grew up with, so I'm always going to be partial to that, but the sculpt on it looks good. The articulation looks better than what he normally puts into it. So I feel like they put a little more, time and effort into that one. And some of them are really good. And then some of them you could just tell, you're like, wow, a lot of time was not put into this. And they just kind of kicked it out there as soon as they could to start pulling in that money. But, regardless, the scale, I think that's really what hurts them, because I think a lot of people invest into lines that they don't know anything about, or they have no real attachment to, just because it fits in with their other lines. Like, hey, Fortnite, those Fortnite figures were a big one. Jazzwares was putting out Fortnite. People were eating up those Fortnite figures because it fit in with their Marvel Legends. That's just how it is, because I've never played Fortnite a day in my life. Didn't know anything. I knew that there were skins, and I knew there were characters, and my kids play Fortnite. Never been a big gamer, but I bought Fortnite characters. I customized them, or I had them because I thought they looked cool, or whatever the case was. But I was out there buying them because they were in scale and they fit in.
I remember that. I think it was the earlier ones, the first wave. Is that this? I think it was actually called this, Skull Trooper. It was a skeleton guy, right?
Yeah.
I picked up 3 of those, and I was like, I'm not going to be a gamer for that. I'm not going to play this freaking game. I don't know these, but that's a cool character, and it's a skeleton. That fits in. It's on my shelf. Or the Black Knight figure. I love Black Knight figures, whether it's the Marvel Legends figure or Mythic Legions. I like the look of a Black Knight. It's on my shelf with my knights. So it's you find ways to connect with the audience.
Right. So in that case, what are you keying in on? The fact that he's got a cool design, and that he's in scale, and he fits, and he's affordable, right? And if you can do that, people will buy it. And I've had buyer's remorse, but I've went through and I said, "Ooh, that's cool. Ooh, that's affordable. I'm kind of jonesing for an action figure right now," and picked it up. And then I was like, "Why did I buy that?" I really don't collect these, but it was cool. So then it kind of got to the point where now I just collect whatever I think is cool. I don't even have anything really specific that I collect. I just see something that is cool. And I mean, I picked up the Joy Toys, one of those Joy Toys 1/18 scale mechs recently, just because it came with a sniper rifle that you could actually insert rounds into. So I was like, dude, that is, that's a toy. It goes and it starts borderline being, and they say what they want to say, but I look at it as art. When you start investing that much time and that much detail into the paint, into the articulation, and into the small fine details where you can insert rounds into those sniper rifles, and you don't have to. They didn't have to do that. That starts becoming toy art, and that's something, man. That stuff I've got to grab. I got to put those things in my collection. Especially, I feel like once you start making action figures, you want those things. You want those kind of things that you feel like almost borderline on more than just an action figure.
Exactly. Poke87 says, which character is your favorite character now and for the future for Invincible Toys? He's asking me and you, Tim. Right now, the Spartan. I like the Spartan. I love that Spartan look.
I think it looks cool. Yeah, I like the Spartan as well. There's a good look to
it. And then Facebook uses Mike Hex. I had to go online. I had to go on Facebook to see who it was, but it's Mike. Because it's funny that you mentioned that Fortnite. Mike had wrote an article for Geek Dag Life. He wrote an article talking about the Fortnite figures and how they just there's no backing for them, and how they just kind of almost disappeared.
And that's kind of the thing, because you see where lines can do really well. But I think because where that started dropping off is because the exchange of the license. I think when it went, from McFarlane, and then Jazzwares was doing it, and then I think somebody else took over now, you start having that breakdown, and then certain companies don't invest as much time and effort into those figures, or they start doing here they are in 1/12 scale pretty much, and then they start changing the scale, and people are like, well, I don't collect that scale, so I'm just not going to collect collect. And then when you start seeing things start to peg warm, I think that even starts to have an effect on those kind of on the line in the brand itself, because then people start seeing, oh, you know, there's 20 of this character and 20 of that character, and they're just sitting here peg warming, so that line's got to be dead. And when that starts kind of coming over, and places like Walmart and Target have all of these figures sitting on the shelf, even if it's not, let's say Jazzwares was selling really well in 1/12 scale, but now they drop, you know, another company takes over and they drop it down to the 4-inch scale, and now they're peg warming. What does that say to Target and Walmart? That says, oh, you know, this line is dead, regardless of the scale that it's dead. So they quit buying. They quit buying if it has that name on it. They quit buying. So
my channel is Toy Hunts. I do a lot of toy hunt videos on my channel. So obviously it gets worse than Walmart and Target, because then you start seeing these different lines showing up at Ollie's and Big Lots and all the different liquidation stores. And it's not a good look for your brand when I can go to a Burlington coat factory, Dante, and see, you know, 25 Hasbro Fortnite figures sitting there for $6. So there you go.
Right. So let's look at, we know that recently we started seeing the G.I. Joe classified line. I love the G.I. Joe classified. I love G.I. Joes when they were 3 3/4 O-rings. So it was only natural. Now we're talking about 1/12 scale in their G.I. Joe. So I was like, man, that's a must. But then we started seeing them in like all of these liquidation stores. And what does that say? We know that G.I. Joe classified is something that's running strong, regardless of what people want to say. People will keep buying that regardless of how Hasbro handles it, because we're suckers and we love those things. It's the nostalgia to it. And they are good action figures for the most part. But if you could take something that's doing that good and you can see the impact of it where it's hitting a liquidation store, like the Roadblocks, I think the Bats, like, and some of those were really, really good figures. You're like, oh, ouch, that must mean that this line is hurting, right? And it's automatically, you automatically kind of put that assumption in there. So yeah, that it has a huge impact. And I think Fortnite, because it had so many change of hands, because it jumped through so many scales and stuff like that, and then it started getting characters where they started peg warming, I think that had a huge effect, and that just really tanked it.
Yeah, and video game, not to go through a whole rabbit hole, but just video game lines in general are tough. What the heck did Hasbro make? Dante, the other video game franchise they had a couple years ago. What the heck was it? Yeah, the cowboy dude.
Oh, Overwatch.
Overwatch. Thank you. They were like instantly a 5 below.
Those are hard. So yeah, Overwatch was like you're trying to hit a very select audience with Overwatch. That's the problem with Overwatch. Fortnite more like everybody else plays. Overwatch is like you have certain dedicated players for Overwatch, and that I didn't see why they went and try and make those.
So this is one of my things on Overwatch, is that it was very stylized. Okay, so I went and I purchased those. I loved what was his name? Like Soldier 76. Was a really cool design. I picked one of him up. My son still plays with it. And McCraig, I think it was what his name was, the cowboy.
That's the one I bought was McCready. Yep.
Right. So I picked him up. And they were kind of cool, but you could kind of fudge them in with other things because they just kind of fit in. They kind of had that style. But if you looked at them, they had larger feet, narrow ankles, kind of chunky hands, larger shoulders, smaller heads in these proportions. So now you're talking about something that's not only kind of aimed towards people that play the game, but you're also pushing something that's more stylized. Where if you kind of looked at what McFarlane was doing with Fortnite, he was slowly kind of edging out certain details, like the skinny ankles, where you saw kind of the ankle and it went like this and it kind of narrowed down. You had this large foot. He was kind of working away from those things, and it was making the figures look more appealing because it didn't have these really, really huge stylized designs to it. So I feel like when you already have kind of a limited market, that you really have to start looking and saying, hey, look, we're going to make these things, but how do we change it to start to appeal to everybody? And when you go and it's like hardcore stylized like those were, it's not going to succeed. At least I don't feel like it will.
Yeah. We'll blaze through some of these comments real quick. Robert Diaz says, accessories and hands are king. Sadly, Hasbro has just gave us an entire wave from Guardians 3, had no real number of accessories or extra hands. Yeah, I forget what was in that. Who was in
that? Those are those waves that they're so unnoticeable. You kind of pass them through. You know, every once in a while you're like, oh, dude, I like that head sculpt. Let me buy that figure to pop his head off, you know, and put it on one of my GI Joes or something. But really, other than that, you're like, it's not memorable. There's nothing to it that brings any value. You know, the characters come with minimum weapons. They're lackluster. There's no even when you're talking about, okay, you have Star-Lord, right? And he's such a big character on screen, but then you look at his action figure and he looks dead. You know, there's nothing that evokes anything out of, you know, any emotion out of that when you see that action figure. So why are you going to go buy it? I think even like we're talking about that stylized, if you're going to push and you're going to go stylized, and this is one of those awesome things that Esteban did with Fist. He went and he pushed certain boundaries there, but he gave all of those characters lots of life and different details that were able to make them unique, you know. So if you're going to do it, then you got to be able to do it the right way.
Right. I think in that case, because like when you collect the Marvel Legends, it's kind of like you have a split side. You have people who collect just MCU figures, just the movie figures, and that's it. And then you have people who collect the comic ones who like, okay, yeah, MCU, great. Well, where's my comic version of this character? And then you have some people who just like, I'm good with both, either one. I'll buy both, and that's fine. I think that, but I would say like their face scans have gotten a whole lot better from what they used to be, because they did not look like half of the, like sometimes they did not look like the characters. So I give them praise on that. I think yes, we should be getting a little bit more accessories for the price point. I really do wish we were getting more with that.
Remember the original Guardians wave from the first movie? How bad that was?
I don't even remember.
I think the second wave was even worse. I think the body on Star-Lord started getting like really skinny, and he had weird hips, and then, you know, his face sculpt was like atrocious. So, but then they did, I think they came out with another one on Guardians 2, which was actually really nice. They really nailed Chris Pratt's likeness. Yeah, they bulked out the character. He had the shirt with the design on it. That one was actually really nice. And I think that whole wave, they really upped what they were doing. But I think they kind of looked at the mistakes they made on that one and were like, dude, we got to recover from this.
Yeah, some of them looked like they were in direct sunlight for way too long and just melted.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They look like they were made out of like cheap candle wax or something. And they just, kind of transformed there.
Pokey says, looking at the jumpsuit gang member on Disavowed shelf, he's like, no shade, just poking fun. I'll pay that price when I find them. Oh, you'll find them. They're out there.
There he is. This guy right here.
Exactly.
What do you think about that? Because I was looking at it the other day and I saw something on YouTube. And it didn't look, for whatever reason, one of those faces just looked like they put no effort into it whatsoever.
I got him right here. I can show you real quick. Well, I know a guy named Disavowed Action Figures did a review on YouTube. If you want to check it out, feel free. but somebody said this looks like Louis C.K. And then I laughed and I can't unsee it.
Yeah.
Okay, so it doesn't look as bad.
And then here's the main actor, I guess.
Yeah.
I think Ozzy or whatever.
Yeah.
I think if they put like a little bit more color in and the beard, I think it would have been fine.
I literally just wanted it because of the mask head sculpt.
Exactly, yeah.
Because of the mask.
Yeah, look at that face sculpt technology right there, guys. It's perfect.
Right.
Looks just like him.
Right. And that is right. Like I just really quickly, I rarely buy MCU anymore. I wait till they're on clearance. It's just it's what I do. I had this in my hand and I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'll take a flyer. Definitely too expensive. It was like $27. But you know what? It's not horrible. Like, I get 2-3 more of these on clearance, they can. You mentioned earlier fudging things across lines. Like this would be good for photography. You have some dude jumping somebody and they get shot. Like so yeah. It's for what it is. It's okay.
I think I don't even think they made that for the characters. I think they literally made that for people who were going to pick it up for action figure photography. And there is a market there for that. I mean, we saw Shartimus Prime. Shartimus Prime was pushing that, and I think that was a great idea, but for whatever reason that didn't work out.
That's the winner of the pack right there.
Yeah.
Needed a
Molotov cocktail.
And then second place would be the golf club.
The golf club. It's funny because who made it? I don't remember who made it, but it was like a blank. It was like an action figure blank, and it was made for posing and drawing, art or whatever. But it came with a cell phone. It came with a golf club. It came with a selfie stick. It came with like a sword. It came with like all kinds of stuff. And I think, the coolest thing was the selfie stick and the golf club.
The goodies. Here you go.
The goodies. Yeah. Just the stuff you don't see, that makes it a little more interesting.
Let's see. Iodine74 says I brought 4 Fortnite scratch figs on blog because they look like they worked as troopers. I never played the game. Strider says the problem with the DC Mofx, we won't get a proper Batman's Rogue Alley. That's not true, sir. We probably will. Pokey says I've only played it once, but they do have a lot of cool looking characters and accessories. And he asks if I still have my shark. I forgot I even had the shark from Fortnite. I forgot I even bought that shark. That shark's upstairs somewhere.
Fortnite shark. Yeah.
But it was great. It was a cool looking shark because it came with all these accessories, but you pop the head off and you can stuff all the accessories inside and then you pop it back on. Like, the jaw moves. It's like, it's a cool little shark.
I think those sets that they were making, like the gliders, the shark, even the boat. I mean, that boat looks great with the new what's his Copperhead, the G.I. Joe Copperhead. That's perfect for that. But I don't know where they started getting the pricing. It was like it just got astronomical, and you're like, man, you know what? I'm just not going to go in for that. It's just too expensive. And then you just wait, and then it ends up dropping in price anyways. About to probably what you'd be willing to pay for it.
That's only for the boat dropping price. I grabbed that.
Yeah.
Poggy says Joy Toy mechs look awesome, but I hate having to strap all the gear on. I really wish it came all set up. I'm super lazy when it comes to things like that. Yeah, Poggy, tired of you. Daniel A says I think Hasbro has it. McFarlane had the 7-inch Fortnite line. Yes, Hasbro still has the Fortnite line. Poggy also says I honestly think the big box stores need to hire true collectors to manage their departments. Man, I think you want that. You want somebody who's going to know what they're doing. But hey. Stratton says the Overwatch figures are great, but the line could have been better executed. Greg says McFarlane motto is, you want an accessory like an alternate head? Well, then buy this very exclusive at Walmart. That is very true.
I mean, at least they started making weapons packs.
It was he's only made one so far.
I think aren't they coming out with a second one? I think they're coming out with a second one. Who knows?
Me and Todd, if I see Todd at New York Comic Con this year, me and him having a serious sit down talk. Bart says, read the fist bios I wrote. I think they're fleshed out. Read the fist bios I wrote. I think they're fleshed out well. Robert says Guardians had the best likeness, best Gamora to date. Guardians 2. He's saying, what's going on, Mike? Pokey says, will that ski mask fit on other bodies? I guess that's here we go. Pokey says Black Series put out the pilot from some show that looks like Walter White. Mike says I've been seeing people put the mask head on Chamber. I haven't messed with my Chamber yet. Jeremy says Robert says Figment made those. Yes, I couldn't remember if it was SHF or Figment who made those Body Coon figures with the accessories.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I kind of like this. Like he's going to change your tire for you or something.
Like, he's like, we have down here in Florida, we have Road Ranger. So because 95 is like used so much in the turnpike. Yeah. So when a car breaks down, you can call this number, and these people come and they'll help you change your tire or whatever. So yeah, literally, and it's funny because I ended up, I come off this exit, get a flat tire. I'm out there changing it. And this road ranger guy pulls up, he's got his truck and all the lights are going, and stuff. And he walks out and he stands there and he just watches me. He doesn't say anything, didn't say a word, not one word. And I'm changing the tire and I get it off and I put the new one on and I look up at him and I'm like, finish changing the tire, get it ready to go. And he just stares at me the whole time. He's like, and then I'm like, okay, well, tire's on. And then he just walks off, just goes and takes off. Didn't even check to see like if the spare tire was good, and it wasn't. My spare tire had deflated because it had sat in the back for so long. And luckily I carry, like a little cheap pump and was able to pump it up. But I was like, dude, why did you even get out of the car? Like, you didn't say anything. You could at least had a conversation with me while I changed the tire, and then you didn't even check to make sure it was good.
He did. He's like, well, looks like my job's done here.
He's like, getting paid for another day. Off to the road.
He's like Hawkeye since he got his leg messed up. He's been demoted to working in the Avengers garage now. So he's no longer going on adventures. He's rotating tires.
All right. So real quick, we'll go through some of the news here for the next 10 minutes. So let me put this up here. Thank you, Landon, for all the information and
yeah, absolutely,
coming to hang with us.
Yes, thank you.
So the newest pre-orders going up is for Tekken. You get Kazuya and Hiyachi Mishima. Let me see who this company is. Game. Oh, it's Bandai. Yeah, these are Patty Pass for me. It's Bandai. Yeah, that face sculpt is not selling it. Yeah, that face sculpt is not selling it. Yeah, Bandai can kick rocks on this one.
Kick rocks. There it is.
Yeah. This is like it's a minimal effort. This is a minimal effort put into this.
Yeah. Oh man, those I was looking at those earlier today.
Yeah. This ain't it.
I don't know. Like you said, yeah, I feel like that's minimum effort for sure.
Yeah. These ain't no Jada toy figures. I Jada toy figures. Nah,
they're doing awesome with the Street Fighter line.
Yes, sir, I can't find them in my area. I'm so mad.
I was gonna say, I'm still looking and I can't find them either.
I have my figure big bag for, but
right. I was gonna say most of the time it's just easier just to go ahead and put the pre-order in online than it is to wait around for them to pop up in stores.
Yeah. Then the newest line from SHF is going to be Indiana Jones. Yes, more indie for you all.
Did anybody see that? Has anybody seen that? What is it? The
Dial of Destiny.
Dial of Destiny.
It hasn't come out yet. It's supposed to come out this month. So this month is jam packed. You got Spider-Verse coming out across the Spider-Verse. You got Flash and you got Indiana Jones. So yeah, it's
every weekend.
Basically. So from the reviews that I've seen of Dial of Destiny, it has not been good.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I'm like, man, they're really pumping out these Indiana Jones action figures for something that, but I guess honestly, when we're talking about this, that's an awesome looking figure if it comes out looking like that. And I'm not a huge Indiana Jones fan, but I don't think people really care how the movie does. Honestly, at this point, they just, the people that are buying those are the people who love Indiana Jones from when it came out. They're not running around and, my 16-year-old son is not going to watch Dial of Destiny and go and run out and buy that action figure.
Exactly. And that's what I think we talked about this before too, where we said, how far can you go with Indiana Jones line? Because you're doing all the movies. You came up with most of like the enemy, the figures, all the characters for those movies. Where do you go at that point?
And two quick things on that. I just saw the suited one at GameStop, so they're pumping them out, but that's already out. That's like the regular, I would say, the third movie. But on top of that, it's one of those seasonal lines. Like we compared it to Ghostbusters, where it's like it's there for the movie. The movie comes out. I can't imagine they'll keep putting figures out, next quarter after that.
And I think you're right. I think they're pumping them out as quick as they can because I think after Dial of Destiny, you're going to see those things, just they're going to get discounted, and then we're probably never going to see Indiana Jones again. So it's like, if you want it, get it while it's good.
Get it now.
They're making Indiana Jones fans happy at this point, so. And I mean, at least they're doing a great job. The figures look really good, and they're covering such a wide base of all the characters. So it's like, if there's something there that you like, they're doing a good job at it.
So the Strident I thought you were talking about is a different Strident that we have here.
Oh, okay.
Said, don't forget Transformers. I did. I'm sorry, I did forget about that because Transformers is Beast Wars looks really good. This looks really great. This looks better than that Michael Bay stuff that he was putting out. So yes, I did forget about that. So that's also this month too. So that's going to be hitting. We're gonna have a lot of movies, and I got a lot of time on Plex to watch stuff. Esteban says we don't even have stores that sell Indiana Jones action figures here in Colombia. Look, Esteban, I can get them for you. They'll be peg warming.
That's what I. Yeah.
We can get them for you. We can send you some.
Hey. Yeah. Hey, wait a sec. It's not like you don't have connections to get them, buddy.
Exactly. We're more than willing to help you, Esteban. Like, don't you start.
He knows.
Don't you start. I know. No, he started trouble. He started trouble on the show already.
Stirring the pot, right?
Exactly. And then Bart, here comes Bart with his nonsense. I gotta bring this up because Bart, this is the longest running joke that Bart's had with me. Indy, Dante, the Hatch removal. I don't know, Bart. You're just announcing. I don't know.
Hey, look, if it's not removable, get the one in the suit, pop his head off, switch him out.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you.
We know how this game works. We all know how this game works. Come on.
Exactly. Then the pre-orders went up for Marvel Legends West Coast Avengers 5-pack. Good. There's some good and bad about this. There's 3 of the figures that we already got, which are repaints.
Yeah.
And some probably not. We do get some new ones. I don't know. Like the Hank Pym looks great. The Mockingbird looks good. The only thing is, and I know Ty has said something about it before. You can probably pop the arms off and switch them with Lady Deathstrike, so you can get those long sleeves on her. I don't know. I did go ahead and pre-order this because I do like the West Coast Avengers, and this would be a good little set. And what's funny is I actually have a shelf for my West Coast Avengers that I had before they even announced all this. I had a shelf that's dedicated to them, so I made up my own West Coast Avengers out of that team. I don't know. What do you guys think?
They should have done Great Lakes Avengers. I would have bought that. Not these guys.
There's so many renditions of the Avengers, and I think they were hitting on some of that when, we're seeing, the Black Knight and Cersei and the leather jackets and stuff. But my problem is, if you start these lines and you're going to do something like that, then finish it out. Are we ever going to see Hercules where he was rocking the leather jacket and the shoulder pads, or like, I don't know. I do feel like this appeals for the people who want it, even though, yeah, I think there could have been, some difference in the parts, and they could have switched some things out. And like always, they're going to go the easiest route and most inexpensive. But I feel like that at least hits where it needs to. So, I mean, I'm happy for the people who like that.
I mean, they do have Hercules, so they can just make some quick changes on him. So
No. Because you gotta at that point he didn't have the beard. He still kind of had the headgear, but his hair was different. He had the weird shoulder pads that kind of V down. He had pants, and he had the boots that kind of came up at the knees. So,
Yeah.
if they were going to make it, he would have to be a complete, new figure from what I can think of, unless like maybe they took like Thunderstrike, that Thunderstrike body, and maybe could work something out with that. But
they may do that. I can see them doing that. Grace says, Bart, only the Nazi has a removable hat. And and short round. Dad, go on. Robert says, go watch a real movie like Swamp Ape. Robert, I'm not watching. No. Because I watched Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, and that was horrible. Abnugga says, I'll take one of those indie figures and it's on clearance.
Well, tell me something. How do you make a short round figure with a removable hat, but yet you don't make an Indiana Jones with a removable hat? Like, I don't ever, and I might be wrong, but why would you want a short round with no hat? Like, wasn't his little ball cap?
Yeah, it's a ball cap. I would feel like I would lose it. Like, honestly, like I don't want his hat to come off because I would feel like I would lose that piece somewhere. I would feel like it drop off and then it just disappears into the ether.
That's what they want. They want his hat to get lost, and then you have to go buy another one.
Carpet Monster gets it. Yep.
Yeah, the Carpet Monster.
Speaking of teams that are almost complete, we got I forget his name. I think it's Blur and Nighthawk. Yes, Nighthawk and Blur. For Squadron Supreme, we already got 2, Dr. Spectrum and I forgot his name already. Lord have mercy.
The guy with the red, right?
Hyperion, yes.
Hyperion.
Yeah. So we got those 2 already. We got another 2, and then now we just need Princess Power, which everybody's thinking that it's going to be Princess Power with Agent Coulson, a comic Agent Coulson. So I can see that happening.
Very cool.
But these look good. Now that Nighthawk's was on the Avengers for a hot second too, so this works out pretty well. But I do like this new updated Blur body. It looks a little bit bigger than the other one. That last one, that Spider-Man body, looked a little malnutritioned.
Oh yeah, that was.
Yeah. But I like the updated bucks on these. Esma says maybe if they made the hat removable, they wouldn't get the license, and as a hat will look too big to fit properly. You know what? This is the thing. So, and I always forget this too with license deals. So that might have been part of like the license. Like, hey, you can't make the hat removable.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, it could be. And maybe just, I don't know, could be a sell point. Like, hey, look, we'll make all of these where the hat can't be removable, and then the lesser, I don't think the suited versions are going to sell as well as obviously the hat versions, right? So now you get the Indiana Jones, and you're like, wow, I want my jacketed, traditional version to be able to have a removable hat. Well, I can't do that. Well, what do I have to do? Now I got to go buy the suited version to get that head to put on this figure, and that's those sell points. And you see it happen all the time.
Yeah. Well, the Hawkeye Ronin from they put the head in that separate box. You had to go buy that and mix it up that way. The weird thing though is when you think about it, that the hat for the Arnold figure was removable, the top hat or whatever you want to call it.
It was, but
so they did do one.
His head was kind of small, so that was fine. The last thing before we get out of here, the Whoosh says Ninja Scroll toys are coming, and I can't wait. I love me some Ninja Scroll.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything on it recently.
They just announced this. This was like literally just I think announced today. So they said be ready for SDCC 2023. Some Ninja Scroll actions coming. 6-inch figures. Sweet. Man, I'm down for that. No, Mike, we didn't talk about the DeLorean. We'll have to talk about that maybe another time. Sorry. Mike's hyped about that DeLorean, that 1/10 scale DeLorean that they're making. Here come Bart says, thanks, Dante. Talk indie hats and get me fired up. That's it, Dante. Talk indie hats and get yeah, you know what, Bart? You'll be all right. Bart. You'll be all right. All right, Landon, thank you for joining us. Appreciate you hanging out with us. for the fine folks who don't know where to find you at, where can they find you at?
Yeah, so right now, primarily we're on Facebook and Instagram. Invincible_toys on Instagram is usually the best spot to get all the information and stuff that we're putting out. We have Fist, so if they want to check out Fist and anything on there, that's also on Instagram. So it's going to be f.i.s.t.fist. So they can check those out and see what we're doing there. That's primarily where we do most of our posting. We have a bunch of cool things that are coming out where we're working on a ton of other lines that are in the process. Like I said, we have one that's kind of going to be the swords and sandals that I'm pretty excited about. And then we have some kind of cool cyberpunk-esque lines that we're working on too that I think everybody will really enjoy.
Can't wait to see it. Can't wait to hear more about it. I'm excited. For our wrestling fans who enjoy the show, yes, there's a lot of wrestling this weekend. A lot of wrestling. We got Night of Champions tomorrow at 1:00 p.m. I thought it was last week. Nobody corrected me, which is even worse. There is what else is tomorrow? I think Impact's tomorrow, and then Impact's nobody watches Impact anyway. And then Sunday we'll be doing a live stream of AEW. Is it All Out or I forget? Double Nothing.
Double or Nothing.
Double Nothing.
Did you see the WWE pay-per-view tomorrow too? The one over in Saudi Arabia. Yep.
Yeah, it's one. Yeah, that one's 1:00 tomorrow. Sunday we'll be doing. It'll be me, Tim, Pac. Dom might show up, but Dom is traveling. The man's jet setting, riding in limousines with his gaiters on. Dom may join us, but I know Pac will join us on Sunday as well to watch some AEW live. Watch along for that long 20-hour pay-per-view. I'm sure it's going to be.
It's the only pay-per-view that starts on Memorial Day and ends on Labor Day.
Exactly. So join us then. We'll have some good times then. Other than that, I don't have anything. You got anything, Tim, before we get out of here?
Nah, just thanks for being here, man. We appreciate having a great talk. Very, very awesome. Learn about the German culture. All sorts of great things that I didn't plan to talk about. But again, thank you so much for being here. Very, very, very thankful for you coming on, hanging out with us.
Absolutely. And you guys want to do it again? Just let us know. We'll be more than happy to jump on and talk about whatever. And when you guys do like the creative, like, let us know. We will jump on, and there's a lot of cool ideas always floating around. So
I think I think Esteban and Mike are the only two that have been on both shows. So we have to wait Esteban. Since he's out, we'll get him up. We'll be like, yo, Esteban.
Yeah.
Come on. But yes, we'll definitely get you Infinity Creators. Yes. I'll definitely let you know. We'll figure out a date and time on that one.
Awesome.
Now folks, have a great weekend. I hope you all enjoy the holiday weekend. Get your barbecuing, going down to the beach, enjoy your time with the family. Enjoy your time. Just enjoying the time. Other than that, that is it. We will see you on Sunday night.
Happy Memorial Day.
Absolutely.
Yes. Taco Bell for everybody. Yay!